guys, here come the dollies. They got fresh sinkers, hot coffee, and the sweetest smile.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Clubmobile.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for joining us as always. Another
Mm.
another old-fashioned sit down.
Yeah, these are always really fun. I think we've been saying this every time it's just me and you.
We
We always
do.
have the most fun learning from each other. So
Yeah.
I always look forward to doing these. And this one is I've been really excited to talk about this
Oh, I've been
woman for
so excited to
quite
talk
some
about
time.
this woman. We are going to be talking about Margaret Bourke-White today. So if you
Mm.
don't know who Margaret Bourke-White is, I would put her on the same playing field as Lee Miller.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that. I was gonna put the question to you. Say if you don't like gossip magazines today, would you say that they were of the same, like cut from the same cloth, or would you say that there was some differences between the two?
I would say they were cut from the same cloth. I
Mm.
really would just say that, the only difference is that Margaret was on military bases. Like she went up in the
Yes.
air, she was with the Air Force, she went up and flew, she took reconnaissance photos. So she
Yeah.
did not play it a little different than Lee. She just had a
Mm.
different viewpoint of the war than what
Agreed.
Lee
Yeah,
had. But I would
absolutely.
absolutely say she was just right up there with Lee Miller, which
I
is
believe
why
they
I'm
knew
so
each.
excited because I love Lee Miller. I think she's
Oh
another
yeah.
badass woman.
I believe they knew each other as well. I believe they
I wouldn't
shared
be
like,
surprised at
yeah, they
all.
shared a similar circle of friends from what we researched. I believe that they at some point they must have crossed paths. So this is yeah.
And I mean, at that point, you're two women in a war correspondent role. How many of you actually are
Right.
there, right? You kind of
Yeah,
find your people and stick to them.
absolutely. Yeah. So they
So
must have, yeah,
they
they
must
must
have.
have.
And they did at one point, their paths kind of went down the same way towards the end
Yeah.
of the war, which we'll get to
Yeah.
later. But um she's a New York girl like me, which I love. I think that might also be why I've been so excited to talk about her because I'm like,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
We
Like,
talk
yay.
about, the other day we spoke about the ATS and it was Winnie's playing field. It was, these are
Yeah.
your people, it's your side of the pond. Now we're back on my side of the pond. I'm very excited.
Me too.
So Margaret was born on June 14th, 1904, and she was born in the Bronx. So,
Mm.
I mean, thick skin to start.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Thick skin to
And
start. And she was
to
born
go
Margaret White. So Bork is her
yes.
mother's maiden name, which she added in 1927.
Reading about her parents, I found extremely interesting because for the time, it isn't the kind of parents that you
No,
expect. They were
no.
very different in terms of the parenting of the time. She claimed to have learned perfectionism from her father, and her parents were described as free thinkers and were intensely interested in advancing themselves and humanity through their own personal achievement.
She was
And that's
also of mixed faith, which you didn't
you
see a
didn't really
lot
see.
of back then. So her dad
Mhm.
was a Polish, non-practicing Jewish man, and her mother was Irish Catholic,
Yeah.
which you don't see a lot of back then. But I
No,
guess
absolutely not.
In America, it wasn't, there wasn't a
Wasn't unheard
magnifying glass.
of.
There wasn't a magnifying glass on it the way there would have been if, this had
Mm.
happened in Poland or in
Yeah.
the United Kingdom or something.
Especially for the time. I
Yeah.
mean, America has always been a melting pot of religions and
Hmm.
faiths and
Yes.
races and creeds. So it isn't exactly surprising, but it isn't something that you would have seen commonly. So,
Right. Right.
um, for those that don't know, Margaret Bourke-White was a photographer, and her interest in photography began as a hobby in her youth, and it was her father that got her into it. He had a passion for cameras and photography, and her own passion strengthened as she left university. And I think it was sort of something her father passed away, and it was something I think to keep herself close to him and his memory.
That makes sense.
Eventually, she did go to college and she graduated from Cornell. And a year later, she moved to Ohio.
I mean,
It's
yeah,
quite
leave
an
New York.
adventurous
You leave
life.
New York, you go to Ohio. These days, it's the opposite. People leave Ohio and come out to New York.
Yeah. I wonder if she needed the more space and the,
It's
I
entirely
guess,
possible, or like,
yeah.
but she ended up concentrating on architectural and industrial photography. And
Mm.
she opened her own commercial photography studio, which at the time for a woman that's an incredible accomplishment.
Especially in, I would assume, a smaller town.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a way smaller town than where she was in New York, and
Yeah.
it's Ohio, so there's not that many women doing what she did to begin
Yeah.
with, but to do it
The way
somewhere
you
like
just said it, it's
Ohio.
Ohio.
I've never been, but I
Neither
know
have
that
I.
it's, especially then, I know it wasn't exactly bumping or
No,
exciting. I
no.
mean, no, absolutely not. She met and married a best-selling novelist called Erskine Caldwell in the mid 1930s, and they met through a collaboration project about poor communities. They married in 39 and they traveled through Europe to record how Germany, Austria, and Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic, were faring under Nazism. However, they divorced in 42. Again, very unheard of at the time.
No,
I
a lot
didn't,
of, yeah. But then again, you think about it, there were a lot of Dear John letters going around during wartime.
that's true.
So maybe not as unheard of,
Maybe not. I
but just
think,
maybe just not as advertised. Divorce
yeah,
wasn't as advertised and as made up of a big
yeah,
deal as it is now. I mean, now a woman gets
agreed.
divorced and she throws herself a divorce party. But back then, I feel
Yes.
like you just kind of did it very quietly.
Swept it under the carpet and you just got on
Exactly.
with it.
Yeah, you
And
you
then
swept it
maybe
under the
you
rug and
denied,
you just moved on with it.
you didn't have, I think if you didn't have children, you sort of denied that it ever happened because there was no proof that it
Yeah.
ever happened. You can't
Yeah.
look for things then the way you can now. You can't go through records
Oh no, record
to
keeping
see
was not what it is
things.
now. There was no social media. There was no, paper trail. It was just,
Exactly. So it could have been something like
it
that.
was, and then it wasn't, and that was it.
I think this next part you've told me about a
Oh, it's
picture
my
of
favorite
Bourke-White.
picture of her. So you guys have probably all seen this photo and not realized, maybe not realized who it is. But in 1930, she was hired to photograph the construction of what would eventually become the Chrysler Building in New York. And the photo is Margaret standing on the edge of one of the it's it's just a piece of architecture that kind of comes over the edge to finish
Mm,
off. And she's
yeah,
standing on the edge. No harness,
that's
nothing. She's
terrifying.
just standing on the edge. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, holy shit.
Mm,
That has to be AI, right? First time I saw it.
no, I
Has to
mean,
be AI. Nope.
absolutely
And
not.
I was like, she's awesome.
I really love that picture. And however, it does scare me that she's just stood there
Yeah.
like that on the
Yeah.
edge with no harness and no protection.
Right. But she was smitten with the structure and
Yeah,
adored the massive eagle head figurines that were projecting from the building.
very, 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 very
Yeah.
cool. Love that. Um, and yeah, she loved it so much that she wanted it to become her new studio. There was no other place in the world that I would accept as substitute. Even though she was hired to photograph the construction, the building's management initially refused to rent to women overall. But she secured a recommendation from her principal employer at the time, which was Fortune magazine, and she opened a studio there shortly thereafter. And then in the same year, because apparently this woman never sat down, she never rested. That same year, she became the first Western photographer to be allowed to enter the Soviet Union.
That's
So
incredible.
she was not even the first woman photographer to be allowed to enter. She was the first Western photographer, period.
Right. So she had around this time, to tie her back a little bit to Lee Miller, around the
Mm.
30s, Lee was modeling,
She was, yeah.
whereas Margaret was already in photography. So their paths haven't necessarily crossed yet.
I don't think they would have crossed until maybe the
The
outbreak of the
war.
war or
Yeah.
when they met.
There's
Yeah.
another photo of Margaret that I also really love, and I think she's looking into, I think it's Margaret, I have to double check, where she's looking into the belly of a plane. And I
I think
think
that is
that's
her.
Margaret.
It
She's
for
looking
sure is
into the
her.
belly of a B-17, I believe.
Yeah,
She's
she
through the
was.
hatch, which is just so cool. There's a couple of her on location on air bases, which are some of my favorites as well. For you know,
You t
for
she
obvious
took
reason, for obvious reasons, she's
obvious
surrounded
reasons,
by B-17s. These are some of my favorite pictures.
right? She took incredible pictures and
She
she did
did.
just amazing things. And to be, again, the first woman to do something, she was the first woman to be allowed to work in combat zones during World War II.
Yeah. First woman to have a
So
studio in
she's,
the Chrysler building. First woman to be rented to in the Chrysler building. First
yeah.
Western photographer allowed into the Soviet Union. First woman in a combat zone to take combat photography. I mean,
Is there
she
anything this woman couldn't do? She was always the first at
sits
everything.
down. She couldn't sit
Yeah.
down.
Take a rest. And I
Put
think,
your
you know,
feet up.
I think at such a time of unrest in the world, there is no way that you
Yeah,
would
it's a
be
sign of the times that,
resting.
yeah, there was no put your feet up. There was no
It was
what do they
all
call
work,
what do we
no
call them
play.
today? Rot days? No rot days.
Yeah, there was no rot days where you could just sit in your pajamas and read a book and think, oh,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, there was
especially
no
not
rot
this
days.
woman.
No, no.
In 41, she traveled back to the Soviet Union just as Germany broke its pact of non-aggression. And she was the only foreign photographer in Moscow when German forces invaded. So again, she's the first at something else. She's the only
Yeah.
foreign photographer at the time. And while taking refuge in the US embassy there, she captured the firestorms on her camera. And I believe Lee Miller did something similar, right? She was taking pictures of the bombs falling during
Oh, well,
the
yeah, Lee was
Blitz.
taking photos of the Blitz.
Yeah.
Lee was
So
documenting the Blitz. So
they're kind
it's
of in the same,
at this point now they're in the same boat, just in two separate
yeah.
harbors, let's just say. But
Yes.
they're doing the same thing. Yeah, Lee is documenting the Blitz, and Margaret is documenting the German forces invading Moscow.
Yeah. It's incredible. The way that again she just
No,
didn't
she wasn't
stop.
afraid. I mean, and
Didn't
I'm sure she was afraid, but you have to
not
think as a
outwardly.
woman, not outwardly, because as a woman, if you show fear, they're going to yank you right out. She's scared.
Yeah.
She's unable to. She's erratic. They're going to yank you right out. So you have to bury your fear.
You
You
have
really
to
have to bury your fear,
not be open
especially as a
about it.
woman. Yes, especially as a
For
woman.
sure. As the war progresses, she's then attached to the US Army Air Force in North Africa, Italy, and later on in Germany.
That's amazing.
It's I didn't really catch how she was asked. I didn't catch if she was approached based on her photography talents, because at this point they're being
Yeah.
sent to Fortune. It's never really mentioned. Again, even though she has such a robust story and information on her is incredibly easy to find, a lot of places miss the bits that I enjoy knowing about, like how did she meet her first husband? How did she get to be the first woman to be allowed in the
Yeah.
Soviet Union? How did this happen? How was she the first woman to work in a combat zone?
They just missed a lot of, there was no record that back to, there was like no real
There's
good
no
record
record.
keeping back then.
Yeah, that's just stuff I love to know about. In January of 43, Major Rudolph Emil Flack, that's an ironic name.
I was gonna say that's a hell of a name to
It's a
have
very
if you're
ironic
flying a
name,
US plane. If you're
right?
flying a plane
Anyway,
with the US logo on it, your last name is Flack.
last name is Flack. I would have changed that personally. Anyway, Major Rudolph Emil Flack piloted the lead aircraft with Margaret as the first female photographer to fly a combat mission. And this was with the 414th Bomb Squadron. They bombed a Tunisian aerodrome. She must have been terrified.
I feel like at that point you're running on adrenaline. So terrified,
Yes.
but also you're looking through the viewfinder on your camera going, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm up here." I can't
Yeah.
believe I'm doing this. So
But
it's
it's
adrenaline,
actually
and your
mm,
fear is probably masked.
it's actually it's a real combat mission, and you know the risks. To compare it, I mean, I read that and I thought of William Wyler filming Memphis Belle, the
Yeah.
original, and he was on legit real combat missions, and they were being shot at, and it was so loud that he lost 90% of his hearing. But he was
Yeah.
up there constantly with these
Yeah, he
guys.
was up
Every
there a
time they
lot.
went up, he went up.
Yeah. But
So
you
I
have to
don't
think,
think
like, you're going up there, and the enemy doesn't know that, like, William Wyler's on board. Don't bomb this, don't
right,
shoot this
don't,
plane.
yeah.
They're filming a movie. Don't shoot this plane.
Yeah,
The enemy doesn't
exactly.
know. So you're really going up there taking a large
A
chance,
very large
taking a
risk.
very big chance.
And even if they did know, they wouldn't care.
No, no.
So
The
even if they
The
did know that,
Germans had only a handful of American, I would say, celebrity figures that if they were to be captured, they would be instructed to bring them in unharmed.
yeah, like Clark Gable.
Clark Gable, Marlene Dietrich.
Yeah. Oh God. Hitler had it out for Dietrich. Oh my, it's because she renounced her German citizenship
Had
and
it
she
out for
became a
Dietrich, but I
US.
also think he had a bit of a thing for Dietrich. But,
Ooh. Because of all the incredible things this woman did, Margaret became known to the Life magazine staff as Maggie the Indestructible. And this was following being torpedoed in the Mediterranean, strafed by the Luftwaffe, stranded on an Arctic island, bombarded in Moscow, and pulled out of the Chesapeake when her chopper crashed. So not really much going on for old Margaret here. She's bored.
what to do, what
It's
to do.
what to do. I I didn't find out if these were consecutive events. I didn't find out if it was day after day after day. I didn't find out if it was like literally one after the other.
Right.
But how did any of that happen?
She kept going
Um,
back. And the thing is, she kept going back for more.
yeah, she kept going up with them and she kept going to take her pictures and
Yeah.
she just kept going and going. And I think after one of those things, I'd have been like, I'm out. That this is ridiculous.
I think if I was to go, like, after hearing the briefing, like, okay, you're going up, the Luftwaffe flag, I'd be like, I think I might have noped
Bye.
right out of there.
I'm done. The incident in the Mediterranean refers to the sinking of the Africa-bound British troopship that she recorded in an article titled Women in Lifeboats for Life in 1943. That's also one of the things I'd like for us to get into and
Yeah.
research those women, which I think could be a really cool episode as well.
Hell yeah.
She was disliked by Eisenhower,
That's
apparently.
odd because I feel like Eisenhower, anybody that was helping the war effort, Eisenhower was, handing
He
out
would have
gold
been
stars
happy
left and right.
to,
He would have been happy
right?
to, especially because you hear about, like, somebody like Jackie Cochran who somehow had Hap Arnold and Eisenhower in the palm of her hand. And now
Don't
here's
know
another
how.
really strong woman, and you're thinking Eisenhower is probably going to hand her what she needs to continue. No, he didn't like her.
Yeah. And I wonder why. But she became friendly with his chauffeur slash secretary, Kay Summersby. They shared a lifeboat during
Ah,
the
well,
time of the
I do
article.
believe we have Kay Summersby on the docket for this summer.
We do, and I'm so
So
excited.
I'm very interested to get into more of the Eisenhower, Margaret, Kay kind of what happened there. Because,
Yeah, why did
yeah,
everyone dislike each other?
why
She so
did,
she
yeah,
became friendly with Kay. I believe Kay and Eisenhower were too friendly.
aha.
Um, and I don't know if that is gonna be talked about in Prussia, the movie that's coming out with.
Mm,
I don't think it will be because it's so much about D-Day and the weather, and I don't think it's going to be talked about, but I'm excited to talk about it off the back of the movie
hell yeah.
coming out. So that'll be really fun. General Patton really liked her though, because she traveled with him.
That's
Um,
really cool.
yeah. In the spring of 45, she traveled through collapsing Germany with him. and they arrived at Buchenwald concentration camp, and she took pictures to send to Life. Am I correct in thinking that Lee Miller did the same thing for the same magazine?
Lee Miller documented Dachau,
Yes.
and but she was a correspondent for Vogue, I thought.
Yes. No, you are correct.
She was a correspondent for Vogue.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
And
it's getting out there.
and the
Everything's
difference
everywhere.
was Life was publishing these things. Vogue
Yes, I
was
remember.
finding it to be too, Vogue found her photos to be too much.
And that was the argument,
That was
right?
the
Is that
argument.
it's not too much.
That it
Everyone
was,
needs to know
it was
what's...
never too much. Everyone needed to know it. And that was the
Yeah.
difference between being I guess that's the difference, really. The stark difference between Margaret and Lee is that Margaret was providing photos for Life, which was expected to document this, which had documented wartime news from the jump. I mean, there was always some kind of World War II related person on the cover.
Right. Yes.
And Vogue was
Absolutely.
not that kind of production at the time. I don't know that it still is, but at the time you would think it would shift its focus to show you what's going on in the world, but it didn't. It just was that this is too
believe
much.
it did.
And it was British Vogue. It wasn't even American Vogue.
No, and I think as well because, again, Great Britain had been at war for so many years. I think we commented on this very recently where we said that the whole keep calm and carry on thing
Really
because they've been at war for so many years from 39. They'd been in the war from 39. By this point, it's 45. They've had
6 years.
They've had a belly full.
They're done. Yeah.
So I think maybe at the beginning they were in every magazine, in every news outlet and newspaper, they were talking about how we're at war. And then I think it gets to a point like 44 where they're like, let's talk about anything else.
Yeah. And
I think that's
it was
why
easy to pass off the photos that Lee took of the women during the Blitz because they had the masks, and it was like almost like Blitz fashion in a way. Like,
yes.
This is what women are wearing to survive the Blitz.
Yeah.
But to show the concentration camps, no, that was too much.
I think in a very bad way, and I probably am going to say this very badly, and I do not intend to, I think that they were happy enough to document the Blitz in that magazine because it was happening in front of everybody's eyes right then, right now. You could not deny it because every human in London and surrounding areas was seeing it go down.
Yeah.
If you are in England, you are not seeing the atrocities that are happening in Germany, in Poland, everywhere else that has a concentration camp. So if you're not seeing it, you can ignore it. It doesn't matter to you.
Right.
The Blitz mattered more because there was no way any human could deny what was happening right in front of them.
No, that's a valid point.
Yeah.
That's a valid point.
If there's no pictures of these concentration camps and the atrocities being released to the public, therefore, it's not happening.
I feel like Life felt a duty to report on that, though.
I absolutely agree.
It's a different type of production. They felt a duty to report on that.
But Vogue did not because, like you said, it was Blitz fashion. It was how are women surviving the war apart from putting on lipstick to brighten people's day through the darkest days of the war. They could be ignorant to the fact that other things were happening and it wasn't in their mind's eye. So
Life really brought what was going on overseas into the home front. Like, these are what your boys are doing. This is what your boys are uncovering.
This is what they're seeing, and they're going to come home and they're not going to be the same.
Yeah.
They're not going to be the same man that left.
Yeah.
The horrors were so bad that Margaret commented that she was glad to have had a camera. And she said using a camera was almost a relief. It interposed a slight barrier between myself and the horrors in front of me. Yeah. So she didn't have to see it with her naked eye. She could look through a lens and see it.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's a trick that she probably played in her mind. Like, I'm not seeing it. If I don't look at it,
my camera is seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was probably a very out of body experience.
I can't imagine it.
the shock
I mean,
and
we
the
just see the
horror.
photos as they're intended
And
to be viewed
yeah,
as photos, and it's a shock. And it turns your stomach, but not in the oh my God, I'm gonna be sick type of way. It turns your stomach in the devastating kind of just stirs deep emotion. Even now.
even now I'm
I
still
mean, oh
horrified.
my God, even now you get to that episode 9 in Band of Brothers too, where it's like they discover the camp
I
and
love that episode.
they're hugging the men of Easy, and
God.
they're thrilled for freedom and relief, and then they have to be put back in that camp because this is the
For
safest
their
place to
own
keep them from
safety.
medical reasons. This is the safest place to keep them right now, and they feel like the
They don't
Americans have turned their
understand.
backs on them and they don't understand it. And it's no matter how many times you watch that scene, that episode, it's been 25 years almost. I mean, it
Right.
still
Still
is a
haunting.
gut punch. It's haunting. It's a gut punch.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did Easy Company uncover a concentration camp, or was that fictionalized? Was it the 506 as a whole that uncovered them, or was it
I don't
Easy
remember. I
themselves?
know that they were not the first ones to discover a camp, but I
Right.
just don't remember if it was Easy Company, like
As
them
yeah, just as
specifically,
them.
or if it was just the paratroopers in general. I would have to go back and
Right.
look that up. I would have to go back and, but that's
Yeah.
something we can definitely dig into when we get into our Band of Brothers stuff.
Yeah. I also want to speak about the women in concentration camps,
Oh yeah.
the survivors, and how their life was prior to the war and how it was post-war. And a lot of them emigrated here to the States, I
Yeah,
believe,
they did.
right after. So that would be a really interesting thing to get into.
They did.
Um,
I know Dan Rosenthal talked a lot about that. His mother Phyllis went through all the records that they kept triplicates of these
yeah,
records of what experiments they performed on the women in the camps. And it's horrifying to even think about. We
horrific.
haven't even opened a book on it yet, and it's horrifying to think about.
Even the basics. I remember my copy of the Diary of Anne Frank.
Mm,
The Obviously it stops right before she's captured.
right.
Um, and there's like a post, like what would have happened to her. And I remember reading that as a child and I
Yeah.
was horrified. And there was obviously no pictures in there. It was enough to horrify a 9-year old.
Yeah, we read it and they read it in school here in the States. My friend's daughter just finished reading it for her English, not even for her history class, for her English lit class. She's
Yeah,
12.
that's when I did it. I did
Yeah,
it
she's
for
12,
English.
and she had said to my friend, and my friend was like, she came home from school and she's like, "Mom, this is not what I thought it was going to be." And my friend was
It's
like,
horrifying,
"Well,"
isn't it?
she goes, "Well, that was war.
Yeah,
That was war."
exactly. And I can bet that she's sending her kid to you like, hey, tell her more.
Actually, yes. She
Really?
has sent her daughter to me on a few occasions to be
Oh,
like,
that's
"I don't know the
sweet.
answer, let me ask." Because we sit next to each other in the
That's really
office. She's
sweet.
like, "I don't know
Yeah,
the answer. Hold on, let me ask Gabby."
that's really, really sweet. After the war, Margaret produced a book titled Dear Fatherland, Rest Quietly, which
Mm.
was a project that helped her come to grips with the brutality she witnessed during and after the war. So post all of this, she's the first woman to do so many things. She is Maggie the Indestructible. This is the part I found incredibly interesting because during this time, a lot of this time coming up post war, a lot of my favorite actors were investigated by the HUAC, which was the House of Un American Activities, where they were pretty much accused of being a communist and being against America.
Oh, interesting.
It's talked about a lot in so it began pre-war. It's talked about a lot in Five Came Back by
Mm.
Mark Harris, where a few of the actors and the directors were assumed to be anti-war. They were not. They just did not think that America should involve themselves where they shouldn't be involved.
Right.
Obviously, this is before Pearl Harbor. We shouldn't just go in blindly, but yet blindsided in 41.
Mm.
Margaret Bourke-White was investigated by the HUAC, looking into supposed disloyalty to America. and subversive activities. Under
Mm.
the direction of J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI and the HUAC closely monitored Margaret and her second husband for years post-war. They considered her a suspicious individual. They would take her mail and read it, look through her luggage when she traveled, and relied on informants and PIs to keep a file on her in case she's doing anything un-American.
She's essentially gone to war. She did all of that, but she's a suspicious citizen.
Yeah. Despite their efforts, no incriminating evidence was found
Oh,
because
shocker. If they decided that she was a suspicious person, and I a suspicious person, because her and her first husband traveled through Germany and
that was
Austria and the Czech
that
Republic
was yeah,
pre-war,
that was
and that she
essentially
was the
their
one that was
honeymoon.
there when Germany invaded the Soviet Union. That is probably what made them think, oh, she's suspicious. But you would
Yes.
think that her wartime activities, right? So her
Would
service
negate any
would negate
accusation.
any kind of accusation. But, you know, I almost want to say, like, you give a mouse a cookie, give a man a lead on a woman.
That's it. I
That's it.
think, post-war, the world was in shambles,
Yeah. Yeah.
particularly the US in a total shambles, because really it went from World War One, the Great Depression, World War Two, and then suddenly there's a sense of normalcy. Let's not make it normal. Let's carry on with the chaos that has ensued the
Right. We don't know
past.
how to function this way
Yeah,
unless
we don't know how
we
to
don't know how to
function in
function unless we're
normalcy.
high strung and wired for, to be
Yeah,
prepared for emergency.
for the
Let's
next
just
thing.
carry on.
I believe the HUAC post-war especially was looking out for an uprising in communism.
Yeah.
Margaret was never active as a communist, never identified as one. Other people that were investigated were people like Lucille Ball. They accused her of being a communist because her hair was red. So her and her husband, Desi, were investigated by the HUAC because Lucy had red
Red
hair.
hair.
Therefore, they thought that she was a communist.
God.
And I believe pre-war, Ronald Reagan was investigated a couple times. I believe Gable was after the war.
It's actually funny.
The whole country was in a complete shambles because they didn't know how to operate in normalcy. They were preparing for an uprising after the war.
That
They were
is
preparing
actually
for an
funny.
uptick.
Yeah.
They were preparing for an uptick of communism, just in case. I feel like, they didn't enter the war the same time as Great Britain did because they didn't need to. They
Right.
did the Lend-Lease Act and they helped them.
Right.
And then they were completely blindsided December of 41 when Pearl Harbor happened. And I think since then, they were just on edge in case they were blindsided again. Because
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people were saying we need to enter the war with Great Britain because they are our allies. And the
Right. And
US
at this
said,
point, they're
no,
like, well, we weren't prepared last time, so we should really be prepared if it happens again.
we should be extra prepared this time and we should investigate one of our most loved TV stars for communism just because she colors her hair red.
God.
It is insane. On a happier note, Margaret served as a photographer for life during the Korean War as well. So she went back into wartime activities. I believe she took similar pictures and
Mm.
she gave similar information
Yeah.
during the time. In 53, the first symptoms of Parkinson's developed, and she was forced to slow her career down. And that was to fight encroaching paralysis.
Jeez.
So she began to really suffer
Yeah.
right after. She wrote an autobiography, which I really want us to read. Maybe that could be one of our book club extras. It was published in 63, titled Portrait of Myself, and it was a bestseller because, of course,
Of course.
quite the story and quite the life, especially how she, post World War One was the first woman to do a whole bunch
A
of
whole lot of
things.
things. Yeah.
World War Two, she's again the first woman to be allowed to do combat photography.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a really exciting book to read. Around this time, she's becoming increasingly infirm and isolated in her home in Connecticut. It's incredibly sad that she lived this amazing life and it ends on such a sad note. Parkinson's is a horrific disease.
It's a horrific disease now, and there are certain treatments. Imagine having it in the
Having
50s
it
when
then
medical advancements are not there
and
yet.
not happening.
Yeah.
She ran out of money as well. So I believe the income was from the book in
Yeah.
63, which is incredible. But a pension plan she set up in the 50s and thought generous at the time soon began to not cover healthcare costs. And she suffered financially in her final years, a lot from healthcare costs and a lot from her personal generosity throughout her life. She never saved any money.
Right.
She was giving, giving, giving. I mean, you think of hospital bills and healthcare costs now without insurance, astronomical. Then she still couldn't cover it, and it was, I'm gonna assume, a lot cheaper in the 50s and
Oh,
60s than
yeah.
it is now. So the fact she couldn't cover it, it makes me so sad. This is when I was typing this all out, and I just was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
of all the ways for her life to end,
Right?
it ends painfully and slowly. But she died in 71, August 27th, and she died in Connecticut. And she left behind quite the legacy with pictures and her articles, and a lot of her stuff is on display at constant exhibits and museums. There's photographs by her on display at the Brooklyn Museum, so you should hotfoot it over there at some point, please, so I can see them. We can go
Yeah.
together. When I come visit, we'll go together.
Yeah. We can go to the Brooklyn Museum and we can go to the MoMA in the city, Museum of Modern Art,
Lovely.
which is not, we could do them both.
Really upset that I didn't know about this woman when I lived in New Mexico, because some of her stuff is on display at the
Yeah.
New Mexico Museum of Art. And I lived there for 2 years, and I'm incredibly upset that I didn't know about this, because I
We
would
can
have.
also catch her collection at the Library of Congress when we're in DC next.
Amazing. Amazing. Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Have to get a little car or something and toot around DC. That'll be fun.
Beep, beep.
There was a 160-foot long photo mural that she created for NBC in 33 for the Rotunda in the Rockefeller Center headquarters. It was destroyed in the 1950s. Not entirely sure by what or by whom, or if it was some other natural disaster. But in 2014, it was rebuilt, and it was recreated in a digital format, and it was done with 360 LED screens, and it's one of the stops on the NBC studio tour.
I've never taken the
So
NBC
let's do that.
studio tour. In I've been in the NBC studios. No, I've been at the Top of the Rock.
Go on the tour.
I've never done the
Thank
tour.
you.
I've been in the NBC store, like the little gift shop,
Oh,
where I've
cute.
taken like friends from out of town who are like, I want to go into Rockefeller Plaza, and we go and we do the Top of the Rock, which I think is a better view of Manhattan than the Empire State Building, to be very honest with you.
Probably cheaper too.
Relatively cheaper, but the Top of the Rock is actually so much nicer because it's got like a garden vibe to it.
Oh, that's a lot nicer.
And it's a lot
that.
bigger in the sense that you don't feel like if I get too close to the edge and there's a stiff breeze, I'm
fall.
done. Yeah, it's very pretty.
The only reason I'd want to do the Empire State Building is because On the Town is my favorite movie ever, and I just want to really embarrass you and sing the song really loud like they do in the movie.
Fine,
Truly.
but don't expect me to hang over the edge.
You guys dropped something. Oh, we're sorry. We're sorry. Such a great movie.
Don't expect me
horror,
to hang over the edge. Miss Turnstile's over there.
the horror on Sinatra and Kelly's faces when they feel like they've dropped Munchin, and they hold each other's hand and they go,
Ah.
and they turn around and they lift their hands back up like, shit. It's so funny. I need everyone to go watch that movie.
Such a great movie.
Instantly. It's so good. But that's
Such
what will
a good
happen
movie.
if we go up the Empire State. I will be recreating every scene, a one-man show.
You're gonna
Quite
come
the
off the
entertainment.
plane with your little guidebook. And you're
Yes,
gonna go, what is it?
from 1902.
1902. New York,
I
New
think
York. It's a wonderful
Exactly.
town.
That will be me the whole time. I'm going to be incredibly annoying. When
Oh
it's
my
time for me to go
gosh.
home, you will be like, thank God.
Absolutely not. I would never be sad to
Thank
put you on a
God.
plane and send you home.
You will after I've done my one-man show a couple times. Don't you
I'm
worry.
gonna start selling tickets.
You
I
should.
can
I
make a
think we
killing.
make.
Guys,
I think we
how
could.
do you fund the podcast? Well, Winnie has a one-woman show.
Winnie does the whole repertoire from On the Town and tap dances. Can she tap dance very well? No.
No.
I really would like to end with a quote from Margaret Bourke-White, where she said, "The camera is a remarkable instrument. Saturate yourself with your subject, and the camera will all but take you by the hand and point the way." She lived an amazing life, did so
She
many
did.
things, took so many wonderful pictures that served to educate people that were on the home front, to educate people outside of bigger cities. And her being the first at so many things is truly incredible. And I'm
She
really happy we
was
got
a
to talk about
Oh
her.
yeah, she was incredible. I mean, her some of her photos are some of my favorite wartime photos. And this was before knowing much about her. And I was just like, these are really cool.
Mm,
This woman's on the edge of the
yeah.
Chrysler building. She's looking through the belly of a fort. These are really cool pictures. And I just continually find myself in awe of what so many women did without second guessing it or, is this a good idea? Is this safe? Should I do it?
Yeah.
They just did it.
And they did it to serve their country
They
with
just
no
did the thing to
hesitation.
serve their country. No hesitation, no second guessing. That was just,
Mhm.
got to do it. Okay, I'm going to do it. That
Yeah.
was it.
I mean, like we said earlier, we'd have had the briefing and said, nah,
I'm out.
I'm out of here.
I know we
Absolutely
ask
not.
ourselves and we put this question to ourselves a lot where it's like, could you have done the Red Cross? Could you have done the Donut Dollies thing and been a Clubmobile girl?
Mm,
Yeah, that I think I could have done.
yeah.
That I think I could have done.
Something
It,
like this,
something like
I don't.
this, something like what Lee Miller did, like Margaret did. I don't know. I genuinely
No,
don't know.
I don't know if I could have done it. Because it was just incredible. And she was so incredibly serious about bringing this information to people that
Yeah,
probably wouldn't have had access to it otherwise.
yeah,
Because the people there themselves could not write it in a letter because it would have been censored,
yeah. It
very
would have been
heavily
censored.
censored. They
Oh
would have
God.
got in huge trouble for saying anything,
Yeah,
especially those that were liberating the concentration camps. You can't, they would have been incredibly heavily censored. And I don't know if without proof, a lot of people would have believed them anyway.
yeah,
And she was willing to bring the proof
yeah.
to everyone. And I find it so incredible,
Brave.
incredibly brave.
Yeah,
And what a life, what a woman.
yeah.
I had so much fun doing this one.
Me too.
Good.
I always
I'm
have fun.
glad because I know you were
I
super
mean, I always have
excited.
fun. I always have fun doing these. No matter what our topic is, I always have fun because
Mm.
history is a cool thing,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
we said it with Jeff not long ago, where, if you
Mm.
start giving people history and just belt feeding them dates and facts, they don't absorb it properly. So to
Yeah.
find it and love it on your own and want to absorb yourself with it, I think, I always enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also a testament to her and all the other women we talk about is that everyone deserves their moment to be spoken about and to have
Yeah,
so much information at our fingertips is incredibly helpful also.
absolutely.
But I want to end this the same as we end this every time with anything we missed, anything needs to be corrected, drop us a line, tell us about it. If we missed any cool facts about her, we would love to know. Or go ahead and send us your favorite picture by Margaret Bourke-White. She has quite the
Yeah,
collection.
he does have
We'd
quite the collection.
love to know what your favorite was because we've mentioned ours. We'd love to know yours. So
Yeah.
drop us that in a message. That would be really fun. Yeah,
As always, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We had a great time, and we hope you
of
did too.
course. Yes. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.